We started yesterday talking about and reflecting on the code red moment for this industry. But of course, we're all here to ignite growth this week. And we believe, as you saw from that opening video, that AI will simply accelerate everything. Last year, it was rocketing up the hype curve. This year, it is having a real impact on every business in every way. We also talked yesterday about the need for courage in this industry. And I'm delighted that we could open this morning with 3 CEOs who are truly courageous themselves, leading 3 courageous companies in this industry. It's not often these days we get to talk about companies who are delivering growth and remarkable results, but we have that for you to open this morning. Axiata Group, one of the first true success stories of API monetization, and one of the first to embed digital capabilities in Axiata Digital Labs over a decade ago, now seeing the profitable outcomes of that. Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison will be joining us. One of the most ambitious mergers in our industry with remarkable results, the best shareholder returns of any telecom company in the world, and number 2 in the world in terms of EBITDA performance, number 1 in the Asia Pacific region. And the third company probably needs no introduction, that's Jio, one of the biggest and most disruptive stories of this industry in the last decade. Now over 470 million customers and subscribers, over 100 million now on 5G in less than 2 years. Each of these companies embracing AI heavily, and you'll hear that firsthand from their leaders on this stage right now. So with no further ado, please welcome our 3 CEOs. Dr. Hans, CEO of Telecom Business at Axiata Group, Vikram Sinha, President, Director and CEO of Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison, and Kiran Thomas, CEO of Jio Platforms. Now, we've asked each of the CEOs to give us a brief welcome speech to set out their vision for the future of the industry. And Dr. Hans, we're going to start with you. So please take the floor.
Thank you, Nick, and very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. It's a privilege to be here and to share a few thoughts, learnings, experiences from Axiata Group with respect to the journey that we have traveled along, moving from the telco of the present to the telco of the future. Code red is clear, very loud and clear, Nick. And we can call it falling returns, whether they be TSR, or the declining gap between the return on invested capital and the weighted average cost of capital. But by and large, we have a present, other than a few exceptional cases across the telco world, where growth, even if it is achieved in these markets, cannot be translated into real shareholder returns. Now, what is the genesis of this problem? How much of it is self-inflicted? How much of it is due to the race to the bottom that all of us telcos have enjoyed doing over many decades? How much of it is due to commoditization, and how much of it is due to us telcos not understanding, believing, or even bothering to address the fact that consumers want to buy our services differently to how we wish to offer them. And this then requires us to recognize that we need to move from connectivity to a world where we sell end-to-end solutions. And this big jump from the present to that promised land where there's another $1 trillion relative to the $1 trillion we have in our telco industry today, that there's another $1 trillion for grabs purely through adjacency to telco. But this would need us to reimagine. This would need us to rewire our businesses radically, not incrementally. And the first step in this journey of reimagining is to really imagine or reimagine where our services will be consumed, where connectivity plus or connectivity embedded services will be consumed. And I believe that it is a marketplace world, a marketplace future, which we should address, and that this marketplace future spans not only the consumer internet, but also the industrial internet. But are we ready? Are we as telcos ready for the marketplace future? I think we have now just about come to the point of exposing telco APIs as an industry. we have moved into delayering, layering out our infra, our DCs, our netcos and servcos to some extent. But there's a huge gap between simply exposing APIs and being able to capture value from the marketplace future we are talking of. Are we going to leave this gap, again, to be disintermediated? Or are we going to do the tough things that we need to do, rewire ourselves, reimagine, and do all the difficult things to bridge this gap with value creation for the telco industry? This stack might look very complicated, but it's basically a rendition, which is ODA fabric compliant, and a fabric which we at Axiata are moving towards. Beginning with opening APIs a decade ago, engaging developers, both external and internal. Today we have close to 50,000 external developers working on our platforms, 1,000 plus internal developers actively engaged on the API platforms, 3,000 APIs exposed internally, and around 100 fully compliant APIs exposed externally. But it doesn't stop there. We need to partner with hyperscalers, partner with application providers and other partners, and also be aware that we would need to drive APIs at scale, develop microservices also at a phenomenal pace, and perfect the art of zero-touch partnering. Now here, it's important to note that zero-touch partnering is not only about partnering with, say, the hyperscalers or application developers or content providers. It also means partnering with your own competition. In-market telcos. Ouch. It's very difficult for us telcos to think of a world where we hold hands and partner with in-market telcos. But ladies and gentlemen, if the telco industry continues down the path of not recognizing that peer telcos are allies in this ecosystem game and not foes and the primary competition we need to address, then we may as well stay at the API level and forget about the $1 trillion that's up there. And if we then apply AI, I think much has been said about AI, and I will not go into this in too much detail, but it's basically that we apply AI across the entire stack. We need to address each layer and look at how we can use AI for autonomous operation of each layer, how we can use AI for intelligent assistance, how we can use AI for autonomous networks, autonomous servicing, product creation, and linking through to customer experience. Bring Gen AI onto the table. Clearly, intelligent assistant comes on board with Gen AI, but additionally, the interesting application that we see for Gen AI is to use Gen AI to orchestrate that fabric of microservices and APIs. When we are dealing with thousands of APIs, thousands of microservices, then having Gen AI to orchestrate, to create multivariate products and solutions which can be presented to the marketplace layer is, I believe, the great opportunity ahead of us with Gen AI. But there are many things that AI cannot do. AI cannot rewire our thinking. AI cannot rewire the way we partner. AI cannot rewire the way we engage with competition, with application providers, with ecosystems. AI cannot replace, likewise, the strengths that we have. AI cannot substitute the trust premium that we as telcos carry in each of our markets. We have the trust through our brand, through the security that we can provide across the pipes, the trust which we can provide in terms of sovereignty, as well as trust that we can provide in terms of customer engagement and long relationships with our customers. So you might ask, does that mean that the telco gets relegated to the bottom of this stack? And the answer is no. If we do all the hard work that I described, if we engage that entire stack from exposing our APIs all the way to the solution marketplaces, then we have a right to play. And this watermark is just an indication that we cannot own the marketplaces. Let's not try to build everything to everybody type marketplaces. We cannot own it. We have to be prepared to work within this ecosystem and be a key point of value capture within the broader ecosystem. And we will be able to then play in certain narrow verticals, have our own marketplaces which are specialized, play to our strengths. And the last point that we need to address, marketplaces are global as well as local. Are we global? In most cases, not. Telcos are not global. And therefore, the solution is to envisage a global telco fabric established through federation of TMF APIs, camera APIs, federation of even the solution layers, the microservices. A global network, a global fabric, which will enable telcos to be or address, be presented through global marketplaces, thereby enabling us to capture the value deficit that we saw earlier. And the final message, then, is that we have to choose between competition and collaboration to create this global mesh, or choose disintermediation once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hans. Please take a seat. Vikram, we'll pass to you.
Good morning, Copenhagen.
Good morning.
I have to tell you something. This is my third year. And I have to tell you why I come to TM Forum. 3 things which brings me here. Number 1, I get the opportunity to talk and ignite growth with leaders like you. And I'm of a very strong believer that growth will only happen when leadership team will spend time on growth. Number 2, the impact, I have to say this, the impact TM Forum is creating, whether it is ODA, or you heard Dr. Hans talking about API, using technology as an enabler to solve real problem around humankind. And the way they are doing it is my third point, is through collaboration. So kudos to Nik, Stefan, and the board of TM Forum. Let's give them a big round of applause for creating such a platform for us. Brings me to talk about what the whole world is now. Really, everything you see, you talk about AI. I have to tell you, what AI is doing is democratizing innovation at a very rapid pace. And I want to tell you by giving an example of App Store. 2008, if I'm not wrong, Steve Jobs got the App Store and he started with 500 apps. 2012, Apple Store, 18,000 when Google launched. Early this year, when ChatGPT started, it was 3 million. Just imagine what it will be in coming few years. I think what really excites us at Indosat, why AI? For us, AI is linked to our larger purpose very strongly, which is what is very close to our heart. We believe that it will help us empower Indonesia. It will help Indonesia grow on GDP. It will help Indonesia get to their golden vision of 2045 of a developed nation. It can help them reach sooner. And this is where I get a lot of support from all my stakeholders, my shareholder, my employees, my partner ecosystem. And our AI story is built around 3 pillars. First, how do I ensure that Indosat, post-merger, we have got to a scale? How do we ensure that we use AI on everything we do? How do we ensure we become AI native telco first? Whether it is personalization, whether it is ensuring that our CapEx, which we use, is very effective. And we don't stop there. HR, procurement, every function. And I think we have got that journey going. Once you do that, you have the right to talk about AI native techco. And I have to say, time has come when you talk about sovereign cloud, when you talk about security. I think it is very clear that what you will see is building on what Dr. Hans was also talking, is all about strategic partnership, collaboration, coming together to solve larger problem, ensuring that we are fair, most important, to the country where we operate. This whole design principle is fair to all of us, and that is how we'll be able to create larger impact. And finally, we want to be the AI shaper for Indonesia. And why do I say so? Because Indosat is an iconic brand. This is a 56-year-old brand which first time connected Indonesia to the world. And we believe that we want to take that lead on being that shaper. How do we make sure we build center of excellence? How do we make sure that we focus on talent development? I think I have to tell you, this slide, what you see is very important. It's all about playing horizontal. It's not about use case after use case. It is about creating a platform where you have reusable use case, where you have economic of scale, and I think we have got that journey. My team calls this as a Vikram mantra of growth. So I thought, let me put it in front of all of you. It all starts with the larger purpose. When you have a purpose which is larger than life, you work from heart. You really come together and you align partner ecosystem also, which is aligned to your purpose. And, in this room, I have my shareholders also. When I spoke about partnering with NVIDIA, I had very little understanding what I'm doing. But you have to be bold. You don't have to know everything. Sometimes you have to make those bold moves. And when you do that, the most important thing is the open and learning mindset. The mindset of ensuring that we don't get into the whole impact of Dunning-Kruger effect. This has been an issue with people like me in the telco industry. And another thing I want to highlight, that every dollar you invest on technology, you back it up with a dollar investment on your people. AI will only work for you when you really invest on your people. And finally, I think execution is the key. At least through merger, we have demonstrated that, yes, we can execute, and that gives us the confidence that this will be a next exciting journey for all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vikram. And Kiran.
Good morning. I want to start with a key word that Vikram used 3 times in his presentation, which is purpose. Because whenever you are trying to situate yourself in the present and also look to the future, it's always good to understand your core purpose and to see whether that gives you some guidance. So our purpose in Jio started in 2016 with a simple mantra that our chairman gave us, which is to help to create a digital society in India for 1.5, nearly 1.4 billion Indians. And what the driving force behind this purpose was very simple, that India is a developing country. It starts out with a number of structural limitations. And so when you look at digital, the power of digital, it gives us an opportunity to rapidly overcome many of those structural limitations. And this means that we are making a country globally competitive in this digital economy. And more importantly, we are also creating a participative model where people can now have the tools to engage in this digital economy, and that means widespread prosperity for a nation like India. So that was the real purpose. And again, like Vikram, we had some pillars, but two of them. So the first pillar was bring digital connectivity to everyone. And the second was participate in providing digital solutions that leverage that digital connectivity. Today, I'm going to talk about the first of those pillars, which is digital connectivity. And we have a very simple sentence, which is, in a country like India, connect everyone, every place, and everything with the highest quality, lowest cost, and best experience. And more importantly, do this at scale, with speed, with safety, and of course, do it with social responsibility. Now, these are very exciting statements. So let's just look back one by one as to how we have made progress on each of those dimensions. Let's take connecting everyone. So I think Nik mentioned just 8 years, we are a young company. But in 8 years today, we have connected more than 470 million people in a country like India to the power of 4G. That is bringing the power of digital connectivity into every hand. And just in a year and a half, thereabouts, we have upgraded more than 100 million people from 4G to 5G. But there is still room for growth, because today the theme is growth. There is still room for growth because in India, we still have 200 million 2G connected customers who are not even on 4G. So that's again, the purpose drives us towards even bringing those people into the power of digital connectivity. Talking about every place, again, India has nearly 200 million premises which could be connected. Less than 30 million are connected today. So that gives us an opportunity for growth into the future. And when we talk about everything, the IoT revolution is just starting in a country like India. So that gives us another engine of growth. So the core philosophy of bringing digital connectivity into the hands of Indians, I think that's still a growing story for us. Now let's look at what does it mean to bring the power of the internet. Just 8 years back in India, if you spoke about telecom, it was only communication, just voice and SMS. And in 8 years, we have brought a lot of other C's beyond communication. If you think about collaboration, rich collaboration, today we take for granted. Rich content is available pretty much in every hand. E-commerce of pretty much any type of good or service is possible today. Communities and social networks are very vibrant in the country. And of course, we are in the era of cloud and cloud-enabled services. And now we are talking about cognitive and AI. So beyond just the first C, there are a whole number of Cs that are getting opened up thanks to this mission that we are unfolding in the country. And looking globally, what are we looking forward to? I think this story is not coming to an end. I think it's only accelerating. We are looking at a world that is hyper-connected, that is immersive, that is intelligent, through things like extended reality or ubiquitous IoT, autonomous systems, and an increasing convergence and integration of both the physical and the digital systems. So this is the exciting future that is ahead of us. Now let's come to the last part, which is about the whole thing about quality, cost, experience, speed, scale, safety, social responsibility. One thing to remember is that if the world is going digital, there are 3 rules that guide it, at least in our opinion. Number 1, everything that can go digital will go digital. Number 2, software will eat the world. And number 3, data is the new oil. Now, if you take these 3 rules for given, then the whole idea is how can we play in that software ecosystem better? And it is by leveraging the power of software that we are able to bring 10x reimagination and 10x transformation to our core purpose of delivering all those end outcomes that we spoke about. So what does AI do in that ecosystem? Simply put, AI is bringing a smarter way of building software. It makes us makes everything that we do in the era of software and data that much smarter. But there is another dimension to it, which is not just are we building smarter software, but we are having even smarter ways of building that smarter software. So it's a double smartness that if you can think about, that's what AI really gives us an opportunity to do. And where do we start? I think AI seems to have so many opportunities. And here I want to echo again with what Vikram said. We have to start in our own backyard. We have to take the core day-to-day activities and the core processes that we all do day-to-day, which we understand best, and try to apply AI to that. And by doing so, we will build those muscles within the organization to wield both the power of software, data, and AI. And I'm happy to observe that the TM Forum 3 missions that Nik introduced yesterday in his keynote, number 1, composable IT, number 2, autonomous networks, they play to the heart of that software revolution that's going on. And now the third mission has been added, which is bringing the power of data and AI to really boost the first 2 missions even higher. So we believe that, again, coming back to what I said earlier, 8 years have passed, and I can still remember our launch day as if it was just yesterday. So it's important that we start small somewhere, build small, take a few projects, have some early successes, celebrate those successes, and then try to scale from there. Because from having those early successes comes that confidence and self-belief that we can do it. And the traditional models of partnering with strong partners in this era is important. But I think even more so, we have to build that core of competence, both in software, data, and AI within our own backyards. And with that, I want to just leave us with this optimistic note that let's all lead with that confidence, that belief, celebrate our successes, and before we know it, another 8 years would have passed, and we would all be AI native telcos looking into the future. Thank you.
Vikram, I was very struck by you sharing your growth mantra. It felt like you were sharing the secret playbook here, and I thought maybe we can structure our conversation around that. You each talked about purpose, and this industry is rightly proud of connecting, in many cases, countries, as you've said, in India, Kiran, that have not had access. And if you think about the impact of that, you're leapfrogging generations of technologies, individuals who may have never had access to that technology before, and putting them into a world of the very latest technology. As you think beyond connecting nations, which you're making rapid progress towards, where do you see the purpose of this industry? If we say that connectivity becomes a commodity of sorts, where do we add further value in that AI era? Where can we really tease that out? Hans, maybe I'll start with you.
I guess the fundamental of digital empowerment of communities, societies, industries, individuals and businesses, enterprise, that fundamental remains. So I guess if our purpose is empowerment, it will help us to be less about chest beating and being siloed in our thinking. Because the ultimate outcome, if it is to empower a nation, I think as Vikram said, or empower communities generation after generation, as Kiran also espoused. So I think that's fundamental. You put me on the spot here, so I'm just using one word, empowerment. Empower the ecosystem, and that would be empower developers, empower our partners, all the way to end users, and ensure that the outcomes of that empowerment are progressive, they are sustainable, and add value to the economies in which we operate. And there, I think we really need to recognize that in the AI era in particular, with this acceleration and the impact we will have, we would have a very incisive impact on the national economies. And if we were to apply our capabilities exclusively as opposed to inclusively, we would be doing the wrong thing. And hence the need to have a plural and inclusive approach to the empowerment we deliver to the entire ecosystem and the countries in which we operate.
And as you touched on in Axiata and in your presentation there, you're opening up a lot of capabilities. This goes a long way beyond connectivity. You mentioned hundreds of microservices, pre-built packaged products for small, medium enterprise you've spoken about in the past, leveraging generative AI. So this is taking a long way beyond saying, well, we've just connected you now, good luck. You're actually seeing with businesses and individuals how you can actually enrich their lives. How do you understand the customer enough to do that? Because traditionally, as telcos, we have taken that view of we've got you connected now, do whatever you want. That's the end of our interaction with you. So how do you get enough knowledge to know you're delivering the right capabilities to the customer?
I think it's important not to wait until you get that knowledge. There are many others in the ecosystem who have that knowledge, which we do not. And hence, if you were to open up your networks and the capabilities to ecosystem partners who know those customers, whether they are industries or individuals with specific purposes, someone with a special need, for example, there would be an application partner who can address that. The telco may not have the intimate knowledge of that particular customer. So it's about empowering multiple brains and multiple customer interfaces rather than try to do it yourself.
Kiran, you spoke about something very similar in terms of thinking beyond connecting a nation, which arguably you've made remarkable progress with, more to do, as you say. But as you think about the opportunities beyond that, how are you getting the insights into what the customer needs? When we really dig into purpose and say, what are we really delivering? How are you anchoring where to focus?
Again, I want to start with what is considered to be a religion in India, which is cricket. Right? We got it from the British, but I don't know how we are faring today. But let me just take an example of what we did with IPL, which is the premium, cricket league, which happens in India, widely followed. And for the first time, I think 2 years back, we had the opportunity to participate in that ecosystem with a digital solution. Because traditionally it was broadcast. We were coming in, trying to digitize it and create new set of experiences. Obviously, it had a connectivity element because the event was happening in the stadium. We had to connect it, bring it to our broadcasting centers and add value to it in various ways. India has so many languages, so we were adding commentary and other things. And then all this content we had to distribute back into the hands of end users at scale. So again, the 5G revolution that's going on, but much more than that, things like CDN had to be put in place. We had to do dynamic ad ingestion. We had to place a completely new application in the hands of users with all kinds of bells and whistles and features, right? So the philosophy was not just looking at connectivity in isolation, but we had a mantra that said from glass to glass. The glass of the camera to the glass of the screen, that's in the hands of the user. How can we be an enabler of that solution? And we used technology from a number of partners, but the configuration of putting it together in such a way that the solution works. That's what I think we saw our role as playing. And of course, connectivity was something that we were doing ourselves as well. And in terms of the number of people that it took to build it, I would say that it's probably in a few dozen people across this entire spectrum of connectivity, application, CDN, ad ingestion. If you take working with a number of partners to put that solution together. And in just the 1 year, the transformative effect was that, we had more viewership on it than traditionally we had with broadcast taken together because of all of these capabilities that we're bringing in. And in terms of the ad monetization, I would say that we had more money coming in through the ad monetization on our platform than we did with broadcast. So rapid impact, but I think it all started with the mindset of saying, let's take ownership of that glass-to-glass solution and then work with anybody else who needs to work to make that happen. And again, we have what gives us the confidence is, like I said, for 8 years, we've been digesting software, digesting data, digesting things like AI. And now we have that core group within the company who feel confident that we can take that glass-to-glass mission and do justice to it.
So you've built that customer obsession, as would be the term,
yes,
into your team, into your DNA from the get-go. You've had, I suppose, the advantage of being a younger company, so the foresight to do that. But you really see that in practice in the teams, even down to those operating the network?
Yeah, it starts with the top. So my boss. So so he's that way, very simple, right? I mean, it's like let's talk about the experience that you're delivering and what is the value that you're adding, right? Everything else falls in place behind that.
Yeah.
So again, it starts with that vision, a very strong vision of what it is that we're trying to do. And our vision is that we want to own those solutions end to end, be that partner who brings everybody together to deliver that solution.
Very good. Vikram, you talked about, you mentioned purpose, becoming an AI shaping nation. I mean, this is quite remarkable. As you've brought multiple companies together in this merger, that is renowned for its challenges in terms of cultural challenges. How much has purpose been the driving force behind that? How much is that giving a new purpose to your teams, and how are you bringing that to life in an everyday basis?
So let me put it this way, Nik. You spoke about merger. When I got into this journey, within 30 days, I understood when you have to galvanize 4,000 employees, it doesn't excite them whether you have 100 million customer or 200. What excites them if the purpose is larger than life. So I always believed in it, but I saw the power of it myself. So our whole mission of empowering Indonesia started from there. 2, 3 examples I'll tell you. You spoke about connectivity being commodity. Let me tell you, we have to do that. What Kiran spoke about, 200 million more people need to be connected. And those are the real challenge. In Indonesia, there are 21 million new users, first time internet, that need to be connected. And we have to do that. So, the whole core also need to be done with a larger purpose. The digital divide cannot be, it's not about how Jakarta or Copenhagen or how Hong Kong or Singapore or Mumbai looks like. Let's think of that digital divide, how that island in Indonesia, which is a 3-hour flight within the country, what kind of connectivity I'm giving there. Once you get that right, then comes, there are 62 million SMEs. You keep hearing we want to empower. Only 30% of them are on the digital net. How do we give them with the whole collaborative approach, a plug-and-play model where they are able to earn more, then the GDP of the country grows. So it goes back, I'm convinced with my leadership team that with technology as an enabler, today we are talking about AI, Indonesia is growing at a rate of 5% given. Can it go to 7? Answer is yes. And the enabler is technology, investing on people. Let me give you one more example. We started this journey on Bahasa large language model. Just imagine if machine can talk in local language, and the first use case we are using is citizen service on tax. A lot of people don't know what are the queries. If on the fly, if they are able to solve it, and we are training those modules, we are seeing very good thing. So the pace of innovation is incredible. What was never even imagined will happening now. The last thing I want to talk about, I was impressed. In Indonesia, in the village, farmers are using AI to get the productivity up by 50%. So I think somewhere we have the misconception that some of these things happens on tier 1 cities. The real value add, and then that is where countries in Asia, and especially India, Indonesia, we have so much more to do to the humankind, the impact, the positivity which we can bring. So it's very exciting, Nik.
And that kind of impact you described must really motivate teams to see this is what we can have on a perhaps quite a humble farmer, able to then see that kind of improvement in yield is remarkable. Now, following the same second part of your growth mantra, Vikram, we talk about being bold. We're here this week saying let's be courageous. I've described each of you and your companies as courageous in what you do. What do you want to see from this global community and from this industry? What does a bold move look like? Kiran, let me start with you.
I think it starts with just having that self-belief, right? That, this thing called software is not alien to the telco industry, right? So the ability that, we have had great success stories where telcos have traditionally worked with a number of partners, I would say, over the years, and that needs to continue, and that we need to accelerate on that. But I think the mindset to say that, we can own those end-to-end solutions, right? It is multi-technology, but all driven by software more and more, all driven by data, all driven by AI. But if we try to absorb that in the core, we will develop those capabilities where we can take more and more ownership of those value chains, right? And I think you can name the tech major. The example that I gave in the past, there wasn't one ready to do it end to end. It took somebody like us who understand that domain well and having that confidence to step in to play that leading role. And I think telcos are well positioned. I think we have run 6-9 reliable systems distributed across the length and breadth of massive countries with millions of people, in our case, hundreds of millions of people. So I think we have the core DNA to make it happen. I think if we lead with that self-belief, that if we can accumulate, we can build that talent, we can work with partners and take ownership of those end-to-end ecosystems. I think that's where it all starts.
Hans, what does a bold move from this industry look like for you?
I think we, like I mentioned at the beginning, we need to really reimagine. I think we are at a turning point which doesn't call for incrementalism, it calls for radical internal change of the telco. Now, that might be very insular from one's point of view because we are talking about telcos. We are talking about the world. Why is it important that telcos also return to being the darlings of investors? Because there is an investment gap today. There is an access gap and there's an usage gap. And unless telcos get back on the investment wheel and propelled by the momentum of investor confidence in telcos and the telco returns, I fear that during the same period, not only does the telco get disintermediated, but at the same time, access, reach of the hyper broadband services and connectivity will also be impeded. And therefore, I think we are at what I would call a telco moment. The Kodak moment was so incisive that it blew up. The telco moment, unfortunately, is not incisive. So we keep postponing this reimagination and change. And I think I was discussing with you this morning about FedEx or DHL. You go back 10 years, and these courier companies would have had what we can call a FedEx moment, where they would have seen the future that their services would be consumed on marketplaces, on the Amazons and Alibabas and whatever else, that they would need to open up their APIs, they would need to create value-added services, they would need to add security, they would need to add insurance, payment options, all of that innovation, not to go around chest beating about themselves, but to empower an entire ecosystem and deliver their services through marketplaces. So our moment is, I think, similar. We see this marketplace future. We see $1 trillion of value. And unless we occupy a substantial space between where we are today and that marketplace future for end-to-end solutions, we will be disintermediated, we will lose potential value. And hence, I think this telco moment is very important to address. And even if I just pick up on, finally, on where I ended, on the global mesh, you take a FedEx or a DHL, they are global. But the telcos are not global. Therefore, telcos must collaborate, they must federate, and create this global mesh, which will empower the ecosystems and the marketplaces. So I think that is the courage we need, and we need to tell ourselves it's now. It's not next year. We cannot go on incrementally seeing the TSR curves and the ROIC curves fall any further.
So let's make it a FedEx moment, not a Kodak moment. It's going to be an important one. And for those not familiar, the infamous Kodak moment of the first digital camera invented, taken to the Kodak board, and they said, this will disintermediate, let's bin that, and we know the rest is history. Vikram, bold moves, would you build on a similar path, or do you have a different one?
So look, AI is a point of moment which will be very important for countries, companies, but more so for telcos like us. And we can only will have the right to play if we are bold. I'll give you the Indosat story. Last 3 years, my capex investment have been $2 billion. So we have a playbook, you play around that playbook, everyone is comfortable, things goes. Anything outside that playbook, if you are investing 100 million also, you get nervous. So it starts with being bold, and this starts with leadership and building that culture in the organization that it is okay to fail. There's a thin line between being bold and crazy. You don't have to be crazy, but it is important to be bold. I'll give you another real story, Now, at least our merger is seen as one of the most successful one. If, as management team, we would have not made a bold move of requesting our shareholder that we don't want to go RFP mode, time is of essence, customer don't care, merger, no merger, I want to deliver experience. And sometimes we keep telling our shareholder don't support. It is on us, how we explain them, how we give them the rationale, and then how we execute. So what I'm trying to say is I'm personally convinced that this is the time for us to walk the talk when it comes to being bold.
Well said. Learning was the next on your list, and I'm going to ask you now each, from the journeys you've been on so far, there's a lot of lessons. I'm sure there's a few scars as well, but as you talk to the assembled audience here from all around the world, not necessarily in the same position as each of your companies, what learning would you share and say, this is one to take away if you're an established integrated telco? What can they learn from your journeys in the last few years? Vikram, let me continue with you for that start.
So again, talking from real life learnings, I think it is very important to make your negative list, what not to do. For me, strategy is all about being clear what not to do. So when I was going through the merger, one of the learning which I got is, it is extremely important that you focus on customer experience. Everything revolves around that. So we made, and then I think I heard it from Kiran also, his chairman, talking about keep it simple and then work backward. Yeah. The other big learning is I'm really, whatever we have done well, it is because of equal investment on people and talent. I keep hearing this, that AI will replace. AI is not going to replace anyone. But if you don't invest on your capabilities, you don't invest on becoming a co-pilot and working and getting more productivity, then it is a question. So these are my biggest two learning, Nik.
Hans, how do they compare to yours?
Yes, Axiata, as you know, operates across multiple Asian markets, including Indonesia. And we used to have operations in India as well many years ago. So disparate markets, disparate cultures, and 170 plus million customers across this fabric. But there are several commonalities. It is the people's need to be connected, and the definition of that connection, as both Vikram and Kiran explained, started with voice, it started with simple communication, and all the way now to empowerment in terms of education, in business and enterprise. So those are common across geographies, and that is something that is a key learning. Now, if you have that clear, and moving a little bit into the implementation execution, if you address these common, or want to address these common themes of empowerment, then you find that using common IT architecture, composable IT, as TM Forum has espoused, and ODA, for instance, across all the markets, enabled us to have a glue, which we call the digital telco transformation enabler across, upon which the common set of APIs can be open, and all the platforming that we saw on the stack can be addressed or implemented across multiple markets. So you create a small village. The world can be a small village in terms of execution. And this concept, moving on, more recently, we in some of our markets, we have federated even the Camera as well as TM Forum APIs across multiple opcos. We've worked with IOH in Indonesia, and in Sri Lanka we have all the MNOs on the same API platform, which was the first implementation in the world. So the learning is that we need to put aside competition, and the impact that we can create, both in terms of empowering communities and economies, and also driving our own growth and creating a new future for telco, is regarding your competition as key stakeholders in your growth, and not as those that you need to drive to the ground in terms of race to zero kind of approach. So a couple of learnings from
quite a different mindset, and I think you said on the stage, "Ouch," in terms of having to collaborate.
Yes,
in that way.
because I think those are probably the scars. Getting that learning and realization for telco people, including myself, is tough, painful. Yeah. But sooner you get it, I think the more value we can create.
Kiran, key learnings from a remarkable journey so far?
I echo with many of these things, but let me pick a different theme so that maybe that's something that I can speak about additionally. So I think the real learning for us has been working with, when we started in 2016, working with the basic principles, may not be the exact standards, but the basic principles that Forum was, promoting even then, which is about loosely coupled composable systems. I mean, we had SOAP APIs then, we have REST APIs now, we are going on to, ODA components now. I think that journey has come a long way. But that strong foundation of keeping things much simpler in the architecture and keeping things loosely coupled, which meant that we are not in a position where we are having to undertake massive transformation projects. We can actually go to a specific component that we think is best suited for a particular technology or a particular project and really undertake a change just in that without boiling the ocean. Right? That has been a great, I would say, advantage for us. Again, we are 8 years old, so we have had our own share of legacy. But getting rid of that legacy has been fairly easy for us because it is not a widespread legacy. We have pockets of legacy that we always have because we have to rush ahead. And yesterday we were talking about a theme that business is always impatient. When you want to get something started, you always have to cut corners, right? You always have to make things happen. Maybe not with the best architecture or not with the best end game in mind, but you have to get the ball rolling. So you always have to come back and get rid of that legacy at some point or the other. And having that simple architecture, loosely coupled architecture, the core software foundation of how a company needs to operate, that has been a great advantage for us. So even when we're trying to bring in AI, it's not that we have to bring in AI across the board. We can pick 2 or 3 real, high impact projects, do AI there, and then build on that success, and then try to, spread it much broader into our ecosystem down the road.
Very clear. Now, you've each touched on the need for a coalition of the willing, be it with your partners or competitors in the market through to others. So let me bring you on to execution just as we close out this session. You've got the assembled tech industry here for serving this whole market. What's your ask of them over the next few years in this AI era? What do you need to see as CEOs to realize the visions you've each set out today? Kiran, I'm going to continue with you.
Yeah, I would say, force yourself to reimagine. Because every 5 years or so, a new technology comes along. This time it is AI. I would say 5 years back, it was cloud native. Maybe before that, it was mobile first. Before that, maybe it was software automating everything. So every 5 years, there's something that comes along. And I'm sure 5 years from now, there'll be something else that comes along. I think what is a constant is that each of these shifts gives you an ability to do a 10x reimagination, right? To start with that 10x outcome in mind, and then work backwards into what those projects are, which may require AI, but sometimes, I come across many projects even within my own company, which is an AI force fit. And I'm saying, why do you need AI there? Much simpler automation can actually do a much better job. Are you overcomplicating? But if there's an opportunity somewhere else to really bring the power of AI out, then focus on that. So pick a few and then try to work backwards from what that end vision is, the 10x outcome. And then try to apply all of these technologies. That will also keep us honest vis-a-vis the hype curve. Otherwise, I think we can try to boil the entire stack with AI everywhere. Probably that's not wise either. So really pick those spots where you think that there's AI can create high impact, reimagine and have a strong vision for what that end outcome is, and then work backwards from there. That's how I think it'll be a much safer path to execution than some of these big transformative efforts.
Hans.
Yeah, I think if this fabric is going to work and deliver that huge 1 to 5 trillion value, there have to be a very large number of partners, ecosystem players in this. And I hope that as drivers of the fundamental blocks of connectivity, of storage, of networking, and the serve cores, that telcos will open the doors and invite all these ecosystem partners to play. And therefore, the ask of the rest of the ecosystem is move away from proprietary tech, move towards opening your tech in a way that the telco should open their tech in the same way, to build this fabric in a way that can create, with the power of AI and the acceleration of AI, create large number of product variants, empowering services to drive the digital revolution across the globe and drive the digital economies to the promised land of 3 times the speed of traditional economies. So openness is something we would ask of, I think, the rest of the ecosystem. And in our markets, especially in Asia, I think we have to think about variabilization of cost, because we need to serve that $1 or 50 cent consumer. And we also need to serve the big enterprise. And the only way you can do this if your cost structure is completely variabilized. And we rely on partners to help us variabilize cost structure so that we can make even a $1 or 50 cent customer profitable. And in variabilizing, I think the approach is that you really need to think, do I want my products to be exclusive? Meaning, are my products produced for those who can afford? Or are we inclusive in our thinking? Yeah. Meaning that you make your products available and affordable to as many people as possible. And I would look to the ecosystem to make this dream a reality, where everyone should be able to afford some piece of this magic that we are talking about.
Very clear. And as you said in your speech, this is not something AI can do. This is about us and our mindset. Vikram, let's close with you. What do you want to see in terms of execution from this community?
So look, Nik, I'll be more direct. I want to take the opportunity of making sure that there are a lot of senior people in this room and there are a lot of people listening outside through all your digital screen. I think this decade is all about collaboration, partnership. And in that whole process, I think when I look at telcos, 70% of the telco globally are not even making the ROIC. The ROIC is below cost of capital. I want to tell all the people, and especially the big tech companies, it is not good for them also. And I acknowledge we were very inward looking. We kept complaining about OTT regulator. We were not thinking of innovation. We were not thinking of how. Now it is a pivot moment. So my request and my ask will be that when we talk about collaboration, first, it has to be good for the country. It has to be fair for the local partners on ground. Nobody can eat the full cake. So I think that change of mind has to happen both ways. And time has come that we link our action to the larger purpose. We sit together and work on the design principle, and then the journey will be much more fun.
Very clear. Gentlemen, we're out of time. Thank you so much for your support of the forum and for these wise words this morning. Please give them a warm round of applause. Thank you.